What is going on, my Guardian Gamers? Is I, Birdman, back with another Destiny 2 build, and today I'm going to be showing off a really good just one-tap solar super build. This exotic got introduced back in Season 22 and has actually been an absolute hot pick since. But before I get into the video, you can follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Birdman778. Give a thumbs up on this video. Let me know something you're interested in seeing down below, whether it's Hunter, Titan, or Warlock. Subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 10K, and also, become a member if you want to get your name at the end of that video. Now, let's get right on into it. Now, we'd like to talk about the exotic we're going to be using for this first, and that's going to be the Pyrogale Gauntlets. These were introduced back in Season of the Witch, and it reads Percussive Flames, modifies Burning Maul into a single high damage slam of your hammer that creates several cyclones of flames. Consecration second slam creates cyclones of flames. Now, we're mainly going to be focused on that super part of it, but just know for this season, this is absolutely busted, especially with the weakening debuff artifact mod that we have. It's definitely going to help benefit this and increase those super damage numbers up to over 800,000. Now for the subclass and everything we're going to be needing for this setup. First off, for the super, you need to use Burning Maul because the exotic calls for the Burning Maul. It does not call for the Hammer of Soul, it calls for the Burning Maul. Make sure you're using this or you're going to be having a pretty dud exotic on your hands. Literally, because it's gauntlets. You get it? For our abilities, I recommend the Hammer Throw. Now, even though this did experience a bit of a nerf back in Season of the Wish, this is still a very viable option. It just takes a quick literal second for it to come back to you. But once you got that, you're able to get that cure activated and also just smack a bunch of melee damage around the map. Grenade wise, I've just been sticking with Healing Grenade just because, again, it's a very good option in those close quarter combat situations that we're going to be in pretty consistently with this setup. But do know something like Thermite Grenade is definitely a viable option as well. For the aspects, you want to use Soul Invictus. This just actually got like so much more important because of part of its ability. First off, it reads Solar ability Final Blows, Hammer of Soul impacts, and defeating scorched targets create sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster, and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot. Sunspots apply Scorch and deal damage to targets inside. Entering a sunspot applies Restoration. Now, this is important across the board. One, restoration, easy way to get that extra healing, get that going, and it's going to definitely keep on going with some of the fragments we're going to be using in this subclass. But in a world where abilities have been kind of nerfed to the not to the ground, but to like the third floor, something like that, it's definitely important to have something that's going to constantly help regenerate those abilities for you. Also, I like to use the Roaring Flames for this to increase that damage of my solar abilities. Now, you might say, well, Bird, Consecration, it is really important for the build. It gets a buff because of the exotic that you're going to be using. Well, it definitely is viable, but at the same time, it's taking away our hammer, and it's going to take away that ability to constantly regenerate our super with one of our artifact mods. So I definitely would rather just stick with the good old Soul Invictus and Roaring Flames rather than add anything else. For the fragments, I recommend Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you nearby allies radiant. Great way to keep up that radiant, but also just easy activation if for some reason like the only person around is like the boss or something like that. You can just chuck your hammer at him, hit him, and keep that going. Ember of Eruption, your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. Now we're going to be getting ignitions from a couple different spots of this setup, especially with our artifact mod. So no, this is a good one, but at the same time, it's a bit of a flex one. I would say something like Ember of Singeing is a great one to swap out for it to get that class ability back faster. Ember of Empyrean, solar weapon or ability Final Blows extend the duration of restoration radiant effects applied to you. Great way to do that is just constantly chucking around your hammer or just using whatever solar weapon that you have on your setup. And then finally, Ember of Blistering, defeating targets with solar conditions grants grenade energy. Great one to use, especially again with this artifact mod. I'll talk a little bit here in a second, but do know that we're going to be getting constant ignitions from our artifacts, so this is a great one to use. Now, I'd like to talk about the weapons that are typically good for this setup. First off, I would say the Zali's Bane has been a really good one this season. One, it's a hand cannon. Hand cannons are kind of in a good meta right now, especially with Unstoppable, but also the fact it's solar. It's an easy way to get precision hits with our artifact. But also the fact that you get some like demolitionists that can constantly get you your grenade back. Explosive payloads definitely viable, and you can also craft onto it incandescent so you can get that scorch. Definitely a really good option. But I would say the exotic that needs to be used for the setup is definitely the Dragon's Breath. It has absolutely just come out of the vault and it become this incredible weapon. I absolutely love all the changes to it. It is just a really good one with an ignition scorch solar build to use. Now for the mods and everything you'd be wanting to use for this setup, first off, on your helmet, a harmonic siphon, just match that solar weapon with it. A heavy ammo finder, just so they're able to get more uses of your dragon's breath or whatever rocket launcher you might be using. And then that hands on, so that we're constantly able to get more super energy whenever we get powered melee attacks. We're going to be constantly doing that with that hammer throw, so definitely a viable one to use. When it comes to our gloves, first off, a solar reloader is definitely a viable option just to constantly get that better reload on whatever solar weapon you're using, especially the dragon's breath. Heavy-handed, so that we're able to get those orbs of power whenever we get powered melee kills, and then also impact induction, because we're going to be constantly chucking that hammer, getting our grenade back a little bit faster. On our chest piece, I went with double charged up because it's going to go into what we're going to be using on our legs, but also a concussive dampener just for a little bit more damage reduction. Now, you notice on this, I used triple weapon surge for solar. One, Zali's Bane, we're going to take advantage of that a lot with this setup, but also this is going to help out our dragon's breath, just because we're going to be trying to chunk off huge boss numbers with not only it, but also our super. So definitely a viable thing to use. But we also have plenty of uses of charged up to get with this, so definitely just really viable. And then finally on our Titan Mark, I decided to go with the powerful traction to pull in all those orbs, a Reaper to get an orb power after I get a weapon final blow after activating my ability, and then a time dilation just to make sure those armor charges last a bit longer. Now, when it comes to the artifact mod, we need to go through everything on here. First off, on the second column, a kindling trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply scorch to unscorched combatants. Easy, just like incandescent right there. From whence you came, so you get that extra damage taken in scoring combatants. Definitely viable in the new dungeon. Wished into being, so that while our super is nearly fully charged, ability final blows spawn orbs power. More ways of getting those armor charges. Flint Striker, rapid solar weapon precision hits and solar weapon final blows grants radiant. Easy way to get that radiant back. In the fourth column, revitalizing blast to take out champs a little bit faster after we hit them with abilities that are solar. I did an overload rocket launcher just because it's really cool to use. In the final column, solar operative is definitely a good one to get extra damage while you're playing solo. And I don't have it yet. I'm still, grinding away. But raise of precision is definitely another viable one. You're going to be constantly radiant with this setup, so getting those free ignitions like we talked about before back in our subclass is a great one to use. Now, I always like to talk about how this is going to be endgame viable. First off, for barriers, you have that ability to get radiant. I would just say make sure you take the unstoppable part off of your hand cannon so that you're able to take advantage of that. For unstoppable, getting those easy ignitions, we just have so many different ways of doing that across the board, so that is a simple one. And then for overload this season, auto rifle, pulse rifle, and also rocket launcher, which we do have on the setup, are going to be overload usable. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys really enjoy it. Again, make sure you're giving a thumbs up on this video and letting me know something down below you're interested in seeing. I'm pretty much taking all these new videos just from you guys, whatever suggestions you give. So suggest some more, and we got more videos coming down the pipeline. Also, we're really close to that 10K mark. Again, make sure you're subscribing, and follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Birdman778. Guys, thanks so much for the support and love and all that fun stuff recently, especially around these holiday times. It's definitely nice, definitely wonderful. Makes me feel holiday cheery. But until then, I hope you have a great night, day, whatever it may be.